Howdy, and welcome back to You've Got People Problems, the podcast where we tackle the leadership challenges that no one wants to talk about, but every business faces. I'm your host, Melissa Ortiz with Activate Human Capital Group. Today's conversation is with Gulraj Shahpuri. You'll hear more about his background as we get into the episode, but what stands out most is the level of care and intentionality he brings to building teams in an industry where getting the right person in the right role can dramatically impact not just the client, but entire families. In this conversation, we talk about why soft skills matter just as much as technical skills in caregiving, how hiring the wrong person can impact clients, families, and team morale, the importance of matching people based on personality, communication style, and emotional fit, and how supporting and engaging caregivers leads to better outcomes for everyone involved. Let's get to it. Howdy, and welcome to You've Got People Problems. I'm so excited to be joined today by Gulraj Shahpuri. Yes? Absolutely. I said this correctly? Yep. Okay. I'm so glad to be here with you, Gulraj. You're someone that I really admire as a facilitator, as an entrepreneur, and as a friend, an author. You have so much to offer, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. But I would love for you for a moment to introduce your team right at home.
Sure.
And then we'll jump into our discussion today about the importance of employee fit to role and how much that matters to your business.
Absolutely. I'm the owner of the Right at Home here in the peninsula. This is the California Bay Area Peninsula. We are one of, there are more than, I think, 650 Right at Homes around America and more even around the world. And I'm proud to say that my wife and I, we moved from literally the other side of the world to come and take over the good work that the previous owner was doing here. And we have grown the business by almost 5 times now. It's been a lot of hard work and a lot of people management, and we love what we do day and night. And I feel a little embarrassed to say that I work 6.5 days a week, but I love doing what I do, so I'd rather do this than anything else. And because Melissa, as you know, I'm an empty nester, so I literally have nothing else to do besides do my work, and my work it's very meaningful for me. So here we are, and thanks for having me.
And when you say you work 6.5 days a week, I can vouch for this. I've stayed in your home multiple times.
Yes.
And one of the times I was there, you were making soup for your clients. Do you call them clients, patients? How do you refer to your...
We call them clients. We call them clients because we are in non-medical home care. The medical side of it, they call them patients. We are the non-medical side, and we call them clients.
Well, thank you. If you don't know me, if you're listening because you know Gulraj, but you don't know me, my name is Mel Ortiz, and my jam is people problems. I love helping organizations make sure they've got the right people in the right seats, that those people are engaged and thriving and stay with the organization, and addressing performance problems as they pop up. So I'm excited about this conversation. This new information for me, I didn't realize you had acquired this business.
Yes.
So tell me about some of the people problems you walked into. Did you have any right people issues when you walked into this organization? How long ago was that, Gulraj?
So a little over 5 years ago, my wife and I, we took over the business. I had told her specifically, we were in India at that time, and I had told her specifically that I am dying to get into home care. This has been my passion. This has been something I've been looking forward to as probably the last thing I want to do in life. And this is going to be my forever business or project or work, you could say. Because I had done, I think this was number 6 or number 7 in terms of businesses, depending on how you want to count it. All of them have been people-heavy businesses, and this one was particularly going to be because this business only scales with the number of employees, with the number of caregivers you have. It does not go any other way. So it's a linear growth always. And if you have, let's say, 50 caregivers, then you can serve this many clients. And if you have 100 caregivers, you can serve twice as many clients. And that's how it goes. Aside from that, of course, there are the office staff, but that's not that many in this work. I told my wife right from the get-go that I am looking forward to a running business this time. I don't want to get anything off the ground. I want to make sure that somebody's hard work can be carried forward. And this is what we did. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that 85% of new businesses fail and things like that. And that's why one should buy a business that has been running for a few years. Because I had that confidence that I knew that, starting something from scratch, I think we'll be able to make it work no matter what. But I wanted the excitement of, rather than a startup, I've done that a few times. I wanted the excitement of coming into a running business and taking the reins from there and keeping the plate spinning. And most of that was, in fact, people management.
So were there any issues when you walked in? So you've
Yeah.
grown the business 5 times now. You have how many total employees?
We have, I believe, at this point, we have 161 or so caregivers. And
Okay.
office staff, we have nine plus one who works overseas, so 10.
Okay, great. So you're almost at 200 employees. What was the employee count when you started?
Uh, Not quite 200. We're at, let's say, you could say a little under 175.
Okay.
And at that, now we have nine office staff and 10, including the overseas person. When I first started, when I took over the business, two employees were coming with the business because that's all the previous owner had.
Okay.
Um, and you can see even the office staff in this business scales exactly the same way as my caregiver staff. That if I want 5 times bigger business, then I need 5 times more people in the office because they're all managing the caregivers. So at that time, we started with two, and one of them was one of them never came to work. I mean, it was COVID times. Let's be fair. She wanted to work from home. I never got to meet her. I tried to have a video call a couple of times, but sometimes you have people who are difficult and they just don't want to get engaged. And it wasn't because I was the new owner. I think she just was on the way out, perhaps, or just this is a tough business. I'll tell you, it's hard. You're dealing with people day in, day out, and sometimes people just don't have the bandwidth left anymore, and they get burned out.
I do.
So
And they
perhaps,
self-select out, which is often better for them,
yeah.
for us as business owners, and for our clients, because no one is served well by someone who's not where they're supposed to be.
No, that's so true. That's so true. And there's a phrase that doesn't quite 100% fit into this, but I'll use it anyways. Uh, it's a little negative, but let's say it anyways. The coward never start, and the weak die along the way. Sometimes in this business, you need people that have the nerves of steel, because if you don't have that strength, the mental strength, this is a hard business. You're dealing with folks that sometimes don't know what they want. We have clients that are mostly 90 plus, some even 100 and our eldest two clients are both 105 years old. So you can understand that they certainly have different thoughts about what they need and what their families need. It's hard because then the caregivers are serving these clients day in, day out, and it becomes hard. And then the staff in the office that are managing the caregivers and the clients, they also have a tough time because it's so many competing interests, so many competing thoughts, and age is sometimes not on their side, and health is certainly not on their side. Most of the times, we deal with clients that have dementia, even though it is age-related dementia, and we don't classify that as a significant contributor to our care plan because they don't have what you would call full onset dementia. It's just, age-related dementia that includes things like confusion and forgetfulness and things, but are not severe, but they are there. And imagine dealing with that day in, day out because all of your clients have it. That can become taxing for caregivers and those that manage the caregivers and those that manage the caregivers, including myself. So it can add up.
And then I think about your business school, Raj, and I think about it's not just the individual client that you're serving. My Aunt Mimi lived to
Yeah.
104, and she lived
Yes.
by herself till she was 104 before she needed the last leg was she ended up in a facility where they could support her just the last 6 months. But it wasn't just her that they were serving. It
Yeah.
was our whole family. So you
Yeah.
have this primary client, but then you have secondary clients who are the families who care very much about their well-being and
Yeah.
probably have their own opinions about how things should go.
Yes.
So as you think about right people, paint me a picture of you could get 100 more caregivers. What is the archetype? What is that ideal person?
The ideal caregiver uh, would have skills that are two completely separate types. One is, of course, the technical skills, that how to transfer somebody, how to change them in bed, how to feed them, how to make sure that they're keeping a good log of their meds and things. But that's the easy part. The hard part in this is, and the skill that is much more uh, of value, are the soft skills, the skills that teach a caregiver how to manage different clients and not be at the end of their rope all the time. It's the skills that help them do quick thinking when an awkward situation or a dangerous situation has happened. Not just whom to call and what to do, but also to negotiate with the client that, hey, we have to call EMS now. I know this is not something you want to do, but I have to take this tough decision, and I know that you might not like me after this, but I'm going to make this call because our clients are very resistive, sometimes not just resistive to change, but also resistive to even going to the hospital because they're scared. They don't want to be there in a cold emergency room for 6, 8 hours before they even get seen. And these are the realities and the stories that they've heard that, hey, their friend, their last friend went to, let's say, so and so hospital. Stanford is an example I'll use because it's our closest hospital. That and they never made it out, and I don't want that to happen to me. I'm scared. These are the things that the caregivers deal with, and sometimes they'll call me up even in the middle of the night as the owner and say, "Hey, boss, you're a different type of owner. I know you're very involved. What do I do in this situation?" And then I'll say, "Hey, you know what? Put the phone down. I'm calling 911."
Yeah. You
So
know
you
the
blame it on
answer. You
me.
just needed permission.
Yeah, you blame it on me. And because sometimes families are not available. A lot of our clients, Melissa, have families that are either estranged from them or they've outlived their families. I mean, imagine a 109-year-old, or I beg your pardon, 105-year-old. Uh, there's only a small chance that they have kids who are alive if they had any in the first place.
Yeah.
A lot of our clients have family that lives in different time zones or even different countries or different continents, so they can't be reached sometimes, and we are the responsible party at that time. We take our decisions very carefully and sensibly, but we know we are the final word sometimes, and we will visit the client in the hospital 3 or 4 times until the family has even flown in. And we'll see our caregiver there advocating for them at the hospital, being by them, and they're going through all this diversity and adversity. It's not easy for them to deal with day in, day out, but they do it.
Okay, pause there for a moment, if you will. I suspect, at least it wouldn't have been in my expectation, that someone in that caregiver responsibility where they're in their homes with a
Yes.
client would would do really any more than hand off to a doctor at a hospital or an emergency response team in an ambulance. That seems above and beyond. Is that the norm or is that a standard for your team?
It's the standard for our team, and I suspect probably other agencies, some other agencies at least. There are issues like there are liability issues, and there's issues of, hey, what if this comes back to us and the family felt otherwise, even though it might not be a legal or criminal liability, but what if the family is not going to be happy about these things, and we have to make our judgment calls, and here everybody knows that the buck does in fact stop on me. It really, really does. Because decisions go up the chain, and sometimes tough decisions need to be made. And even though the caregiver is in the right, sometimes we have to say that, look, I'm the one who told him to do so, because we don't want the caregiver to feel that, hey, am I restrained by how somebody would feel? I need to do the right thing. And that's where the boss steps in and says, hey, you know what? I know what you're doing is right. I will talk to the family, and if this doesn't go right, it's on me. Don't you worry. You have to do this. And in the hospitals, the best of hospitals. Stanford is certainly one of the best on the planet. We need to advocate for our clients. They have their hands full. They have the best of nurses. They have the best of the staff, but we need to advocate for our clients every day, all day long. So that's how it is.
So maybe take me down a path. We talked about your ideal in-home caregiver.
Yes,
When you've had people who don't fit that mold, what issues does it create for your clients, for your team, for you personally as a leader?
right.
Some of the horror stories that have
Yeah.
helped you identify the importance of not just the technical skills, but then the more soft skills.
Melissa, here's the thing. It's not just the horror stories I'm going to talk about, but they matter all the more because we are dealing with a segment of the population that really needs the right people right from the start. And here's why. Oftentimes we get a call, and usually the call comes from a caring family member, and that's usually a daughter, and that's usually the eldest daughter. It's just yeah, it's just the way it is, and I know that's probably going to be the case in most home care agencies. Now, and sometimes I can hear in their tone that they're at the end of their rope, that they're dealing with a parent who is resistant, who doesn't want the care, needs the care tremendously. They've had a fall or something similar, and the family says, you know what, can you yourself be involved? We don't have much to tell mom. She needs to be able to see you and be convinced. And I'll understand that, you know what, this family is already up against the wall. They've barely negotiated with their parent that, hey, you're going to get home care whether you like it or not, and please do it for my sake. And then an agency goes in. That's where we have to be extremely sensitive that, you know what, this is their last chance. This is their first and only last chance. There is no other chance. Because when this thing doesn't go right, that's where the elder, the client gets to tell
Because
the
I told
family,
you so. I
yeah, I,
didn't want this
I
in the
told you
first
so.
place.
I didn't want it. You're trying to impose this on me. It wasn't fair. And I told you it wasn't going to work. And look, I don't like this caregiver. And that's where we have to get it right the first time, each time, every time. And it's not like Match.com where we go and put in inputs in the computer and the computer says, well, here's the caregiver. Agencies mostly do that. They, in fact, do. We don't. The software certainly encourages that. We use large operating systems that help us manage our clients, the billing, the payroll, everything, because there's a software for every industry, and the software certainly encourages that, and they sell it by saying that, hey, it's gonna make you find this perfect match. The perfect match is usually quite imperfect, as per what the software has thought of, and I'll tell you why. There are so many parameters that the software can never consider. I'll give you an example. I went to meet a client the other day who was quite talkative, and the daughter said that mom has never met a stranger. So, and the daughter said, "Am I correct in understanding that you're going to put a caregiver here that's also quite talkative?" And I said, that might work. But I guess otherwise, because if everybody in the conversation is trying to have the last word and they're going to just talk all over each other, your mom's not going to like this. We need a caregiver here that wants to and loves to hear the stories of elders, because your mom has lived through the depression. Your mom has lived through wars. Your mom has so many years of stories she wants to tell a new person this time. And we need a listener there. We need somebody who's intrigued, genuinely intrigued, somebody who's perhaps a student of sociology and just wants to understand how things were back then and how they are now. And we put in the right caregiver. And the daughter said, you know what, I didn't understand how somebody so much younger than my mom would have been the right fit. I thought you were going to put a talkative elderly caregiver there who's going to share her experiences. And I said, sometimes it's the opposite of what you think that works out. And 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 I knew this from experience. I knew this from 5 years experience. I sometimes see what works better. And our goal was that it has to work the first time, each time, every time. And yeah, sometimes
That's
it
a lot of
does.
pressure.
Yeah, sometimes it does work. Sometimes it doesn't work. Most of the time, I think if we get it right 90% of the times, that's a huge win for us.
Huge win. And tell me about the recourse. If I'm a family member, let's think about my Aunt Mimi's 104,
Yeah.
and it's time for someone to come into her home and help her. And are there checkpoints to say, okay, how's it working? How are you feeling? Or how do you find those 10% and fix them? Take your time. Wrong coffee down the wrong pipe. Because I think it's such an important match. My Aunt Mimi loved to play cards, so hopefully I would have given you that information. And she was the sweetest lady, but like you said, I mean, she grew up before cars were invented. It was a totally different world. And so, but what is your mechanism to say, okay, if our goal is 90%, we're doing really well. How do you catch that other 10% and support those families in saying, raising their hand, saying, this may not be the right person for us for whatever
We,
reason?
um, I beg your pardon, my voice will normalize in a minute or two. I had an ENT operation a few years ago. It was miraculous. It cleared up my sinuses, and I think in 10 years I've had one cold after that. But
Wow.
for some reason, anytime I'm swallowing, there's a big risk. I don't know what they did down there, but puts me at risk. Now, I'll tell you, you're not alone in saying that what you went through was quite a journey with your aunt because, um, firstly, we tell our clients right from the get-go that you are free to change caregivers as often as you like.
Right.
That is unique in our industry. What others do is they have built in into their contract that the agency gets to decide the caregivers or that the client has to give the caregiver at least up to 30 days. I don't think that's fair. We did away with our contract entirely. We have what's just simply called a service agreement. It was, I think, 4 pages when I took over the agency, and I reduced it down to 1 page because I took out everything in there that gives any type of perception of binding our client to our services, including the right caregiver or being forced to continue with a caregiver that they're not happy about. I even told our clients that, hey, if you love the caregiver and you don't love the agency for whatever reason, we will give you a list of probably a dozen agencies with the right contact person and their rates. Please take our caregiver and go to the new agency if they're serving you better. Because
Wow.
sometimes it's not just the caregiver that they're dealing with, but sometimes if they're not happy with the folks that they're dealing with at the agency, that in itself can cause distress for our seniors. And we don't want them to feel bound. In 5 years, it happened once, and then the client regretted it. There was a lot of dementia involved. The client regretted it, and every year, twice, once on Thanksgiving and once on their loved ones passing, they give me a call and thank us for everything we did for them, even though at the end they weren't with us. There's a lot of little things like this, but our caregivers, like you rightly identified earlier, are not just dealing with the client, but they're also dealing with the families. And sometimes families are large families, and everybody loves their dad or mom so much that they're involved day in, day out. They're coming and going from the home, or they're living at the home. There's a lot of personalities to deal with. Sometimes it gets quite out of hand, and it's not in the client's best interest. And we can do one of two things. We can back off completely and say, you know what, it's probably not the right time for you folks to have care, or we can get involved even more and say that perhaps we need to counsel the family. And at my office desk, I have had families sitting with me, being counseled by me so that they can get out of the way of the care so we can take better care. And everybody's happy at the end. And they understand that my heart was in the right place. And this is just what we have to do sometimes.
Yeah. And I think so often that shows up from what I've seen in my life and my family and my circles is
Yes.
this sense of responsibility. I need to be there. I have a responsibility to be there. And sometimes I can almost imagine you giving people a permission slip to say, we've got this. It's okay.
Yes.
We'd love to see you, but you don't have to be as involved. And maybe that frees you up to support your own children or live your own
Yeah.
life in a way you didn't feel like you had the freedom to do.
We recently had to send a daughter back to the UK and say, we've got this. We've got your mom. Don't you worry. We'll call you. We'll call you on WhatsApp or we'll call you directly, but we'll call you if anything goes wrong. We've got this. Uh, there was, I think it was more about guilt. It was more about the sense of responsibility because the daughter knew that there's no good that she's doing being here. We were in charge of all the supplies. We were in charge of the ordering. We were in charge of their mom. And we were also in charge of interacting with the hospice care. And the daughter said, you know what, I'll take a chance, but I'll go and we talk every 2 or 3 days, and it's going beautifully. There's a lot of personalities at stake sometimes. Sometimes what happens is it seems like an impossible situation, but then the families quickly realize and they believe that the caregiver is. One such family even said that I think after they backed off, they said your caregiver is a saint, and we are going to nominate her for sainthood after all of this is over, because the caregiver had to step in and say, hey, you know what? I love your dad. I've got this. And
Yeah.
it's not easy. And that's not every caregiver. I'll tell you honestly, this is a tough industry. That is not every caregiver.
Yeah. So that was going to be my next question. You led into it so beautifully. Was so much of my work is around employee rate, people rate seats, right? That fit,
Yeah,
making sure
right.
those
Yeah, yeah,
higher assessments that can help us evaluate, should we take a chance and support, invest in this person. But then another part of it is around engagement. How do we make sure that people are continually engaged, that they're not burning out, that they have the resources and information that they need? What is your approach to supporting your team members and
yes,
making sure that they're being cared for as they're pouring into their clients?
of course. I think that is the hardest part because they're doing the toughest job. They're there getting burnt out day in, day out. And some of them knew what they signed up for and others didn't know what they signed up for. And some of them realized quite early in life that, hey, this is not for them. And some of them will realize at the 3 year mark when they get a really tough client and they had been in a unique situation where they hadn't served somebody with those many comorbidities. Now they are, and they figure out that, hey, they're going to burn out. One of the things that we tell our competitors every Friday in our office, we invite at least one of our competitors, maybe two, to come and have lunch with us to get to understand who they are and they can get to understand who we are, because although they view us as competitors, we view them as partners. And when you view your competitors as partners, you can create magic. We refer so many cases on. Right now, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, but because I want to have a podcast that's not getting disturbed. 7 out of 10 calls that we get, perhaps even more, are clients that we refer on to our competitors because we know that that's a right fit for them. We are best at the medically complex clients that usually need our services around the clock or 12 hours or 10 hours a day. And for those that need simply companion care services, we refer them to other agencies. And and then we get them in our office and we teach them that, hey, go drop into your clients, drop in often, go get to see the clients, go get to meet the caregivers. And you know, the answers I get back are so heartbreaking, Melissa. One of our competitors, and they're our largest competitor, and the best of friends with us. They said, "Oh yes, yes, we absolutely make it a point to drop into our clients every 90 days or so to update the care plan." And I said, well, I mean, here I'm trying to persuade them to drop in once, twice, or 3 times a week like we do. And they're trying to tell me that 90 days is good enough. And it is not. And the reasons are twofold. One, the client. The second is the caregiver. The caregiver needs to be supported. And when the caregiver feels that here is my agency telling me what they're looking out for and how the caregiver will be measured, the caregiver feels confident and happy. That's the first one. The second thing is the caregiver just feels that, hey, they drop in, they care, they ask me, how am I doing and how I can be supported. Because I'll tell you, Melissa, like any industry, and especially in this industry, caregivers work for their reasons, not ours. And when their reasons are front and center to their boss, to me, they feel that, hey, here is somebody who cares. Here is somebody who loves and supports me. And then it's the little things that count. When I walk into a home and I see our caregiver is well dressed, doing a fantastic job, I'll reach into my pocket and I'll pull out one of these lotto scratchers and I'll say, we're lucky to have you. Good luck. I hope you win $888. That's this one here. Sometimes it's $5,000, and I'll joke that, hey, I'll make a deal that if you win, you got to give me 10% back. No, usually they don't. Yeah, usually they'll just win enough to get another lottery ticket, if anything. But and the funny thing is, when we give them a scratcher like this, we still have to include it into their payroll because the IRS wants their tax, even though nobody wins these things. But the reality is that the caregivers feel that we value them because we do.
They feel
In
seen.
this, yeah, in this industry, our caregivers are everything. And it starts by hiring the right people to serve the right clients and to support them all in the right way. It's a lot of love and support that they need and they get from us. And sometimes we get huge praises from them that, wow, we've never seen anything like this. And sometimes a caregiver will turn around and say that, hey, how come you folks are always dropping in on me? Don't you trust me? And then we know probably this person is not right for us. This person's not one of us. Because if they have doubts on why we drop in to support them and the client and not check up on them, maybe they're doing something that they didn't want us to see. So
A guilty conscience much?
yeah,
If
guilty.
it's perceived as an
So
act of love.
we have to turn them out of the system because they're not one of us. And we get to hear that once or twice a year, and we know that, either this person is deeply suspicious or we need to be deeply suspicious.
Either way. Do you have any tools, Gulraj? You talked about the software for matching the
Yes.
provider, the caretaker with the client. Do you have any tools that you use to match the caregiver with your team?
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. I think our biggest tool is 4 rounds of interviews.
Okay.
Our caregivers, when they come into us, they get 2 hours of interviews because they get to sit with many, many different team members here at the office because a lot of people have a lot at stake when they send a caregiver to a client. And if any one of them gives a thumbs down, that caregiver has to be asked politely that, hey, are there any other places you have applied to? Because it's not going to be a good fit here. And most of the times they don't understand because caregivers, unlike other industries, caregivers, anywhere they go, they have this assurance that they're going to get hired. They don't go in for an interview in their mind. They go in to get onboarded because, hey, I'm going to get hired everywhere I go because everybody needs caregivers. So
Yes.
when a person like me says, hey, it's not going to work out here, they just don't even understand what we're talking about. And we give them a paper with other agencies that they can apply to and say, hey, perhaps you want to consider another agency. Some of them might be even closer to your home and maybe give you more meaningful work, but here it's not going to be
Not
the
good.
right fit.
Yeah.
And we take our chances. And we'll say it in a loving, polite way, but we take our chances then because they just don't get it sometimes.
Yeah. And that's okay. I think we've talked in the past about predictive index. Most of
Yeah.
my clients use predictive
Oh,
index as a
yes.
pre-hire assessment.
Yeah.
And, of course there are people who break the mold, but with the amount of people who are applying for roles today, which is
Yes.
very different than 3 or 4 years ago, especially when you started, it's interesting to say if we know the archetype we need and we can set this template,
Yeah.
could we save ourselves a couple of round of any interviews if we know from the get-go they simply aren't wired the way our people are wired? And so
Absolutely.
it's been an interesting tool to onboard for clients and to help teams understand how people are wired and how to support and nurture those team members. But there are a lot
Yeah.
of different ways to approach this. But at the end of the day, it's quality control. There's a lot of heart involved and there's a whole lot of time. And
Yes.
so how
No,
do we
absolutely.
make good choices? And
Absolutely. And Melissa, I am such a fan of tools. Predictive index, I love, and my personal favorite, and I always talk about DISC. I love DISC because I was doing DISC assessments before anybody thought it was cool, and I was one of the first people. And I can talk about when I was into industrial psychology in India. DISC was huge for me, and then I was India's only twice over certified Gallup skills coach. But what we also saw even back then, and we see now, that if somebody doesn't have the English literacy to be able to understand what they're being asked of, they'll answer it incorrectly with the best of intentions, and then the tools fall apart. And that's rare, but it happens. In caregiving, it happens more than in probably some other industries because we don't have folks that are often college graduates that are applying with us, and many times they're not even high school graduates, and sometimes if they don't understand the questions being asked of them, that falls apart. So we have to do all of that in the interviews. We have to go deeper and deeper in the interviews, and that's why our interviewing process takes 2 hours in caregiving.
Yeah,
It's a lengthy ordeal when they come to us.
sounds like it. That's tremendous. And uh, such an investment that seems like it's really paying off. If you've had the kind of growth you're talking about, 5x in 5 years,
Yeah.
that's an investment you've made that's having a great return, I hope. So we started this conversation, Gulraj, on the topic of, I feel like we have a little bit of time for it, pouring from an empty cup, and we've kind of been dancing around it. How
Yes.
do you make a huge investment of time in your team, in your clients? I'm sure your office staff gets a part of you too. How do you take care of your own well-being to make sure that you can pour into others?
Everybody has different interests, different hobbies. In my staff in the office here, I make sure everybody has 2 full complete days off because if they are not fully recharged, then they will be pouring from an empty cup. They'll be trying to give and they just don't have any more to give. They
Yeah.
need to reset. And it's like I don't know if you remember a long time ago. You might be too young for this, but I don't know if you remember they had those cassette players, 1 or 2 speakers and then the cassette player in the middle, and it had a counter like a car's odometer, and it would go to 999, and you press the reset button, it would go down to 000. And I need everybody to be 000 after they come back from a 2 day break or on vacation because they'll need everything to give to do it all over again every day. How I 000 is a little different than others. Like I told you, I fondly work 6.5 days a week. Uh, because for me, having an empty desk, an empty inbox, an empty voicemail, an empty WhatsApp list, that means more because then I know that I'm on top of it. Every client is being served, and those that serve the clients are being served, and all the processes that serve those that are serving the clients are all up to date. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have zero inbox right now, and if I do, I'll be more happy. But I'll tell you what gets in the way of it is when I have to go on a 2 3 day break to a training, a right at home training, or meeting a group that, like I'm part of a couple of business groups that we have to do offsites and recharge and learn skills. And when I come back and I have 100 emails waiting, and this in spite of the other emails that I was clearing out at nights when I was there, but some things that I needed to be back in the office for, and there'll be at least 100 over 3 days. That in itself is a lot of work. So I'll say, hey, why do I even take these breaks if I have so much to come back to? So not taking breaks is more valuable for me, but I am the minority, and I certainly don't prescribe this to anybody else. I think it's a bad formula of eventually falling flat on your face or dying. So don't do this. Every day I wonder that I have a perfect heart score, that my calcium score is 0, and I get cardiac evaluations all the time. And I often think one day I'm going to die of a heart attack. What am I going to tell my kids? That the whole time I've been telling them, both of them are physicians, so the whole time I'm telling them that, hey, you know what, this is my score and this is, so they understand these, and so they get off my case. But what if in spite of that I get a heart attack? Unlikely as it may be, but when I'm in such a high stress environment all the time, every day here in our office is like a newsroom. That there's always things being thrown at us. We're always trying to triage different situations, and it's not easy. Anybody that gets into home care because they feel that it was their calling because the profits were good or this or that or something, really has to spend at least a month or two working in this business before they take the plunge. And most of them, if not all, I'll tell you, are going to
For
say it
sure.
wasn't right for them. This is a hard business. It is a very hard business. And it's not a complex business, I'll tell you. It's a very hard business, not a complex business.
Amazing. Well, Gulraj, I'm so glad to connect with you on this topic.
Of
It's
course.
important in all of our businesses, but the ripple effects for your clients and their families are so important. So I
Mm.
appreciate the care that you take to make those matches and support the families. I love your view on the competition really being partners. I love your view on contracts and simplicity. Like if I'm not doing a good job, we need to deal with that. We don't
Yeah.
need to have a bunch of paperwork to get in the way. I absolutely agree with that. So if somebody is in the Bay Area on the peninsula and they'd like to get a hold of your team, what is the best way to reach you?
Oh, yeah. Come into our office. We are right in the downtown area of Los Altos. We have two offices, one in Palo Alto, one in Los Altos. The Los Altos office is our main office. This is where we all sit continuously. Come to the downtown, and those that know Los Altos, we have a landmark here, Linden Tree Books, where people have been taking their kids for generations. We're right in front of that. Otherwise, give me a call. I am the most approachable person you'll ever come across. All of our clients, all of my caregivers, everybody has my direct phone number. I don't know if I have my business card here, but I'll show you. I might have one. On my business card, the top number, the bigger number is my direct number because I don't want anybody to have any uncertainty that whether or not I'm an approachable person. My number is simple. It's 650-361. I beg your pardon. That's my office number, 650-385-8050. Give me a call. Otherwise, anybody can always email me, Gulraj at RAH, right at home, rah-peninsula.com. Mail me if you're shy, call me if you're not. I always answer on the first ring unless I'm in a podcast like this, then I'll let it go to voicemail. But I always answer on the first ring, even in the middle of the night, because I need to be approachable to my clients and my caregivers. And anybody else that wants to learn this business wants to call me up and say, hey, I need to do this in my town. Can you be my guide or mentor? I will never say no. I need the right people to be doing this. That'll be my first thing that to qualify to get lifetimes free worth of mentorship from me. You have to be the right person. And because, as I said, it's a hard business. There'll be days where you'll just say, you know what, death is better than doing this. I can't believe how my caregiver called out at the last moment, and I need to serve this client. I need to change into scrubs and go myself. And I have done that twice over the last 5 years. And smaller times for an hour or two here or there just to sit in. But if the client isn't being served, your self-esteem, your reputation, everything is at stake. And when it gets hard for me, sometimes I'll walk out of my room and I'll see all the awards that we win for all our hard work, and it just adds up. And recently we won two awards, and we're just waiting for them to be couriered in. And I'll love to show my office staff. I haven't even told them. You're the first to know, Melissa, and the audience here. And I'll show them in both hands, saying that this is your work, guys. This is what we do 7 days a week. 7 days a week. This business never stops. Our clients forget that there's a weekend because for them, every day is just a day they need services.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, give me a call, anybody who ever needs to. I know, Melissa, even you're surprised that, hey, why is this guy giving his direct personal cell number? And by the way, this is my only number. I don't have two cells, one for work, one for personal. That is my personal direct cell number. But I need to be approachable to anybody who ever needs help.
You're so approachable. You're so generous with your time and so sincere in your efforts. And you're someone that
Thank you.
I admire tremendously. So thank you for making time to have
Absolutely.
this conversation with me. I hope that people hear this that are entrepreneurs and thinking about right people, right seats for themselves, but also potential team members and potential clients and families. So thank you. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Absolutely, Melissa, and thank you. I know there's a lot of people you could have chosen for this valuable spot, so thank you for putting your trust in me. And to the listeners and the viewers, I know there's a lot of things you could have done with your 1 hour today. Thanks for taking your time to take your valuable time and listen to me and Melissa about what I think is close to heart for me.
Sure thing. Bye bye. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of You've Got People Problems. If you got something out of the conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with the other leaders in your network, because let's face it, we all have people problems. You can watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on your favorite podcast app. But either way, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.